Welcome to Enlightened Game with Slim Sir, as he takes the lessons he learned from the streets, commonly known as the game, and applies them to everyday life, helping everyday people win the game of life, focusing on relationships, money, and the winner's lifestyle. This podcast will turn any chump into a champ. So if you're ready, let the game begin. And now, your host, the most valuable player himself, Slim Sir.
Welcome. My name is Slim Sir, and this is my audio notebook. This is my therapy session. This is where I just let it all hang out. Just let it, just get it off my mind. So tonight I want to talk about some game that I address in my new book, How to Pimp Life and Karma. And I want to get mad real and raw with you tonight, because what we've been taught, or what you've been taught on social media about what the pimping is, that's played out. That level of the game is played out. Now, I'm going to explain to you why. So, when you talk about the pimping, you got to be talking about money, because money is what the pimping is all about, right? And we define the pimping as getting the best and the most from a person, a situation, or a thing. Well, if we're going to talk about money, then we should be talking about savings. We should be talking about investments. We should be talking about land and home ownership. And we should be talking about credit. Now, a lot of the pimps that you hear talking about the pimping and waving money around, if you were to check their credit scores, you wouldn't be too impressed. If you saw all the money that they were flashing, but you knew the reality that they didn't own any land, and sometimes they don't even own the cars that they're driving in, you see, then you would see the reality of it. So, the successful pimps, and on that level of the game, have always understood the rules of money and the rules of business, and they were self-disciplined. And self-discipline is what separates the pimping from a trick. See, it's a pimp, he has the ultimate self-discipline, whereas the opposite of that, the trick, has no self-discipline or very little of it, and that's why he has to pay for sex. Well, I want you to think about the game in a little bit from a different perspective tonight, and I want you to look and see in your mind the female, the lady in the game, as she represents, she's a symbol, and she represents the world. The female in the game represents the world, and the trick only wants her pussy. The pimp wants what's in her mind. Now the head is on top, and her genitalia, reproductive system, her pussy, is on the opposite end of her, on the bottom. This should show you a deep sign. You should see that a trick is only concerned with the lower level of life. A trick is only concerned with the pleasures of life. And so if we just chase pleasures of life, whether your pleasure be drinking or smoking weed or doing drugs or buying sex, you should understand that you are operating on a trick level. And a pimp don't have no trick in him at all. So the opposite of chasing pleasure is what a pimp does. He chases his purpose. And he wants to understand the mind of his woman so he can get the best and the most out of her. Well, if the woman is a symbol, what that means is that a pimp looks into nature and tries to understand the patterns and the thinkings of nature. He's a thinking man. He needs to know all about his bitch so he can get the best and the most out of her. And so there you see the contrast between the two mentalities. And so when you see the so-called pimps and they're talking about pimping, watch the language that they use. Very few of them talk about purpose. You see? They don't talk about the purpose of the game. And if you're not talking about the purpose of the game, then by default, you're talking about what? The pleasures of the game. And if you're chasing the pleasures of the game, you're not pimping. You're tricking. And so this gives us an analogy of life, because the game is a symbol of life. You understand? It's called the game, but it's really the game of life. See? And so in the game of life, you have rules and you have objectives, right? The reason why we fail at life is because we are not obeying the rules of life. One of the reasons why we are not obeying the rules of life is because no one has taught us the rules of life. You know, I learned that lesson when it came to money and started my own business. I couldn't go to my friends or my family to help me with my bills at home or to help me start this business. Not because they didn't love me or because they wouldn't help me, but simply because they couldn't help me, because they didn't have the money. And when I would talk to people about money, I learned that most of them would always, well, you know, you got to wish and hope, you know, and pray that the Lord, you know, I pray that the Lord bless me. I wish I hit the lotto. That type of talk, you know. There was no real solid thinking behind it. It was always a wish and a hope. But once I met Karma is one of your main bitches. And she represents cause and effect. Now I realized that if people didn't have money, if I didn't have money, that was an effect. Okay. Well, what was the cause? The cause is you're not obeying the laws of money. Okay? Well, why aren't we obeying the laws of money? Because we don't know the laws of money. And a lot of these dudes would so-called teach you game, right? So you can get, you know, whatever you can out of a female. But they never teach you what to do with money. You see? That's why you know that's the proof that their game is not complete. That what they're teaching you is not solid. Okay? I don't have to tear them down because I would never tear them down. You know, if you're in college and someone is in first grade, you know, if they disagree with you, you know, it's no big deal. You know, I'm in college. I'm not going to take this first grader serious. You know, it's cute, right? It's cute that they want to argue, but it's not realistic. It's not real. It's no argument, brother, right? And that's not putting you down. That's just saying that, brother, you're on level number 1, and we got to raise up. And that's why I'm here, to elevate you. See, an elevator. Imagine a building and it had 16 floors, and the elevator was at the top, right? And you were at the ground level, and you wanted to get to the top. You have 2 choices. You can take the steps, right? And take each step on your own all the way up 16 flights, which is going to be pretty tiring, right? And take a little bit of time. Or you can go to a certain place and call an elevator, and the elevator will come down from the 16th floor all the way down to the first floor and pick you up and bring you up to the top floor. That's what an elevator does. Well, brother, if an elevator comes, it has to, if I'm an elevator, and if we who teach this game are elevators, then we have to go down to your level. But you have to understand, brother, that your level is not the only level. That this game has higher levels, right? And it's more advantageous for you to ride the elevator to the top. And when you get to the top of the building, your perception of things is different than what it was when you were on the first level of the game. All we're asking you to do is to be open-minded enough and to believe and have faith enough in the game that it is bigger than you thought it was. You know, the game is true on every level, but you have to understand the game on its most basic level in order to elevate and get to higher levels of the game. Anyway, I wanted to talk about money and budgeting, right? But I guess we'll do one more after this and talk about money and budgeting. But if we don't, let me drop this gem on you. You know, a lot of us make money, or a lot of us made money, whatever you do, right? And we spend money, but we don't budget money. Now imagine if money was a female, and as soon as you got her, you gave her away, and you traded her for something that, you know, wasn't really worth her value. Imagine how she would feel about you. Imagine how she would hate you. See, we have to change how we think about money and how we feel about money, and make money a person, and change how money feels about us. If you have a relationship with money, it's a two-way relationship. Shouldn't be just you loving money. See, that's some trick shit. It's a one-way street, right? Money should love you too. And if you obey the rules of money that you learn in How to Pimp Life and Karma, money will begin to love you. Anyway, I got about 30 seconds. So this is time for my shameless plug. Go to slimsir.com. And if you don't want to buy anything, that's okay. Just put your email address in, and we can start sending you some free game. Okay? Well, it's not really free. You got to pay time and attention for it. But we're going to point you in the right direction. Anyway, if you believe and you like these teachings that you heard tonight, and you believe that they're good for you, share them with other people so we can elevate the game. Peace.